we're going to be making Bhindi do Pyaza today, which is a popular restaurant dish, something I really enjoy because okra are my absolute favorite vegetable in the world. And I am going to show you how to make this restaurant dish at home. It is a lot of ingredients and a little bit complicated because you have to cook the different ingredients differently. Do Pyaza means two onion, literally translates to two onion. It is a type of dish that's common in Indian and Persian cooking, and it refers to onions cooked two ways. So in this recipe, we're going to caramelize the onions and make a gravy out of them, and then we're also going to cut them up and serve them in the final dish. So let's get started. So we're going to wipe each of the okra clean with a damp kitchen towel to make sure that it doesn't increase the natural sliminess of the okra. Any kind of water or dampness will make it slimier, so you want to make sure to keep the okra as dry as you possibly can. A lot of people will wash the okra and then let it dry out on its own. I'm going to start chopping the onion. So I have my two onions, and I'm using two kind of medium large-ish onions. But if you have smaller onions, you may need a little more. Let me show you how to process the two different onions so we can have our do Pyaza. So I'm going to start with the first one, and I'm going to cut this in thin slices, pole to pole. So I'm just going to take the ends off, take the paper off. I'm going to just cut it into half from pole to pole, and then I'm going to just cut it into thin slices. Okay, so this is my first onion, and I'm going to transfer it into a bowl. This is about 2 cups of sliced onion, and then I'm going to process the second one. Same thing, I'm going to cut off the ends and then take the paper off. And I'm going to cut it into half as well. And then I'm going to cut it into half this way. And then I'm going to cut it into half again. And then cut it into half again. I'm going to do the same here. And what I want, I'm going to break these up into petals. What I want is some of these bigger petals. So I'm going to just separate some of these out. And for the smaller inner petals, I'm just going to separate them out. I just want to keep the larger petals. Okay, so I have all the larger petals separated here. For all the smaller inner pieces, I'm just going to slice them up real quick and add them to my sliced onions. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to get super fine with it, just so that they're kind of small enough that they will cook at about the same time as the sliced onions that we have. There we go. These I'm going to add back into here. I'm going to just cut the tops off. I want each of our pieces to be about 2 inches long, so I'm just going to cut some of them into 2, some of them into 3 pieces. Just entirely depends on how big our okra is. For some of them, I'll just cut them into half. Take the top off. I'm going to cut it into about 2-inch pieces. I want the seeds to be nice and young, and I want them to be white. If you see any that have these dark seeds, I recommend taking those out because those have a texture and will not soften. So if you see any mature, darker seeds, just take those okras away. Our chickens will eat these along with all of our okra tops. So for the green chili, I'm just going to put a slit. That's it. For the tomatoes, I'm just going to cut them into large pieces, quarters for these little Camparis that I have. I want about a cup of tomato, so that's good. And then I'm going to just also chop up the cilantro. Let's see. Okay. There it is. All right, so I'm going to start heating a pan with about 2 tablespoons of oil. Once I see some shimmering on the surface of the oil, I'm going to add the onion petals. That is when it's hot enough. So I'm going to add the onion petals. I'm just going to saute them real quick. I'll break up any of the ones that I didn't manage to separate earlier if I can. I just want these to soften a little bit and start to get some golden edges. I don't want to cook these too much. The Pyaza onions are supposed to have a little bit of crunch to them. Okay, these are good to go. You see the golden edges on them? I'm just going to pull them out. Now I'm going to add the cumin seeds to the remaining oil. Let them sizzle for a few seconds. And I'm going to add the okra in. I'm going to give that a nice mix. I'm going to add a little bit of the salt just to get the okra cooking. So. Okay, I'm going to give that a nice mix and just make some room on the pan. Try to get them all to touch the pan as best I can. It's okay if they're not all touching the pan. And then I'm going to put the lid on and let it cook for a few minutes. Okay, it's been about 4 minutes and these look like they've cooked pretty well. I am seeing some nice char on them, which is nice. And I'm going to just let the sliminess cook out a little bit. So I'm going to cook for another minute or 2 without the lid on. The sliminess is dissipating quite a bit. Give it a nice stir, and these look good to me. So we're going to transfer them back into the bowl. And to the same pan, I'm going to add another couple tablespoons of oil. And then I'm going to let that heat, add in my carom seeds. And then I'm going to add my sliced onion. And I'm going to let that caramelize. The pan is very hot, so this is happening quickly, so make sure your onions don't burn, but instead are just turning golden. Break up any big pieces. Once the onion has gotten nice and golden, I'm going to add the ginger garlic paste. Give that a nice mix. Ginger garlic paste tends to stick a little bit. And if that is happening to yours, you can add a little bit of water. I'm going to add the turmeric, the red chili powder, add the yogurt, going to add a little bit of water to deglaze my pan. We're going to cook that yogurt. Yogurt is done. So I'm going to add most of my tomato. I'm going to save a few pieces for the end. So I'm going to add almost 3/4 of a cup of tomato, and I'm going to just save a few pieces of tomato for the end. Add that in. And I'm going to let the tomato cook until it is jammy. And I'm just going to add a little bit more water and deglaze the pan so that my sauce does not burn. And I'm going to scrape off all of that stuck masala with my metal spatula. If you're using a non-stick pan, this won't be an issue at all. But you can always use a silicone or a non-stick pan friendly spatula to scrape up anything that is sticking. Okay, the tomatoes look nice and jammy. They're breaking apart on their own, so I'm just going to take this off the heat and let it cool for a little bit. Looks good. Right, now I'm going to put the pan back on the heat. I'm going to combine my cooked okra, my pre-cooked onion petals, with my tomatoes that I saved. And I'm going to pour the sauce back in here. Give that a nice mix. You want the sauce to be pretty thick, but if it is a little too thick, you can always add water to blend. Okay, now that it's all combined, we're not going to cook this together for very long, but we are going to add some more ingredients. I'm going to add some dhanajiru or coriander and cumin powder, some garam masala, some kasuri methi, and you can just rub that between your hands or your fingers to get the aromas going, and add some amchur to provide some acid. I'm going to add in my green chili and sanchar or black salt, and I'm going to add just a little bit of water to my blender and pour that in here. I'm going to let those flavors combine and meld a little bit. I'm only going to cook this for about 2 or 3 minutes with the lid off. Okay, and there you have it. Bhindi do Pyaza. Please like and subscribe. Thank you so much.